Hello and welcome to the latest Business of the Business podcast. I'm your co-host, JP John Podge, with the Two-Man Power Trip. Of course, joining me is the doctor himself, Mr. Lavie Margolin. Lavie, how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good, John. I am recently back from the opera.
Yeah, what is going on here? I see a picture of you. It says Lavie goes to the opera. It looks like you're holding a picture of a, I don't know, is that Terminator in the opera? What is this? What is going on here? What is this picture?
So my favorite book is The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay, at least fiction book, which was written 25 years ago, and sort of a takeoff of all the young comic book creators, even through the 60s, were Jewish kids, just trying to make it by early on, like teenagers, and then kind of get taken advantage of by publishers. So this is sort of a takeoff of that, but like historical also, like, the difficulties of World War II and that whole scene. So I loved the book. And when I heard it was being turned into an opera, I was like, I have to go with my wife. So we went to the Metropolitan Opera in the fifth row. So what was interesting was one of my first thoughts were the tickets were $200 a piece, and I was like, these are pretty cheap compared to trying to see John Cena's last match at Madison Square
Yeah.
Garden. I think that's the cheapest ticket to get into the Garden. So maybe the Met Opera isn't optimizing their pricing. Although I guess when you do a residency, it's hard to charge as opposed to like a one-time thing. The second is that people at the opera aren't necessarily so well behaved. Sometimes wrestling fans get a bad rap. But right before the show started, Senator Chuck Schumer came out, and he started talking and saying like the importance of the arts, that the arts are under attack, that sort of thing. And then people start yelling at him, like somebody yelled, like, "Do something about it,"
That's great.
which is funny. And the third thing, which is cool, is sort of like you don't get it so much in like sports and pro wrestling anymore. Even like in Madison Square Garden, right? You have the history, even accounting for it being a new building, but like it doesn't look the same. I'm not sure what the Met Opera looked like, however many years ago, but I think it pretty much looks the same. And you sort of like look around and you get the historical significance of it. So having recently read Brian Solomon's, of course, wonderful book on Gorilla Monsoon, you sort of like take you back to a throwback period, but you can't have that same feeling at most arenas. And this was kind of cool just to look around and kind of almost feel like you were back in the 30s, 40s, or whatever it may be.
So you loving the opera? Are you loving the opera more than professional wrestling? I think that's the question here.
It was an interesting opera in that it kind of felt like it could have just been a play. It was in English, and they were doing the operatic whatever it is, singing. But I was kind of like, you might as well just say this or sing it in a song. But that was probably enough opera for me. There was actually a boxing opera that I was interested in, but I didn't make it a couple of years ago. But either it was my first time at the opera, or maybe like as a kid there was like a school trip or something like that with my parents once. But I pretty much had my fill, but glad I went.
Nice. Will there be MSG show post Christmas, or are they breaking the tradition? So I know obviously you're trying to get tickets for the John Cena show, but does that mean that there's no Christmas show?
That's my feeling at the moment. I feel like somebody might have written that, but I'm not sure if it's like fully confirmed. But that's my feeling, at the moment. But I hope that there is, just because John is, it's like one of my favorite traditions with wrestling, at least with WWE, because it's a different feel, family, more relaxed atmosphere than like a taping or something like that.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy because I was reading a couple weeks ago that they may do a show in Baltimore instead of at Madison Square Garden. I was like, wow, that's kind of, I don't know, that's weird.
Yeah, I wonder like if they feel they could get the high ticket prices but not have to pay for a venue as much, then it's a bigger profit margin. I'm just stunned and impressed that they're able to get these gigantic prices for shows that aren't flying fans. Because I understand even WrestleMania, the cheapest ticket is what, $1,000 or 900 something, but 1,000 with additional fees. That you could find maybe even 100,000 people, or maybe half that, or whatever, to who are willing to do it once or twice a year. But to go through every city and like really keep getting these huge prices is pretty impressive.
So what is going on in the world of TNA? You got a lot of TNA news here. I love this.
Yeah, kind of fun to return, as we had our wonderful guests the last 2 weeks, as I mentioned, Brian Solomon, and of course Brandon Thurston. But that built up a lot of news, most of which is still relevant, that we'll talk about today. So as we're recording today, on September 26th, tonight is Victory Road. So, given the market, the Expo Center in Edmonton, Alberta, I think they did pretty well. They were off to a pretty hot start. I think they got to 1,000 tickets really quick, and I just thought they might even do better. But I think as of this morning, according to WrestleTix, 2,358 tickets distributed, a 3,098 setup, 4,865. So depending if you're Dave Penzer or Tommy Dreamer, maybe it's a sellout, but it's not a sellout. But they did quite well with it. The following night is probably about just under 2,000 tickets at this point as well. So a double show taping is really impressive for the second day as well. They continue to work with their streamers, which I think is a really good idea, sort of watch-alongs and so on. Heel Jesse being one of them, who said, "I'm excited to announce we're partnering with Create Sportsnet and This is TNA to bring you guys the ultimate live watch-along experience for TNA Victory Road." Good way to connect with people in a unique way. Now, all the way to Lowell on October 12th, which isn't that far away. So if they're going to break some records, I think that they have to get moving. WrestleTix hasn't updated their count in a while. It's a unique map. It's not Ticketmaster, so maybe that makes it more complicated. But last time they did, 2 weeks ago, it's about 3,500 tickets distributed in a 4408 setup. And number of seats on the map total, 7,558. If they were going to break the record, they'd have to use the full map as well. They did announce, or actually I found it, that students at University of Massachusetts Lowell can actually get discount tickets for the show, which is a smart move. Now, following that, and we've talked about this, John, a number of times, there's TNA like going all in, and then there's TNA like austerity as well. So they're going to be in November doing a triple shot taping in Orlando, to be announced. Of course, speculation, either is it the Performance Center, is it Full Sail? How does this relate to the current invasion angle or whatever is going on there? Then in December, which pretty much takes them through the full year, unless something unexpected is announced, they'll be in El Paso for a triple shot as well, probably their same building. Now, there was, I think it was the Observer first reported this, that TNA Town couldn't be on Maple Leaf Pro, and everyone associated is denying that, from Carlos Silva to Tommy Dreamer to Scott D'Amore. So I guess they could be there. I would be, if I was TNA, a little bit concerned about Maple Leaf, although they seem to have taken a little bit of a step back of their plans, or at least they came out of the gate hot. That sort of what's the number one Canadian promotion? Obviously, it's TNA right now, but they could really make up some ground there. Now, the last part of this TNA talk, which is really Anthem talk, is on the other side, which isn't really related to the wrestling side, but it's interesting to note the different moves that they make, because on the other side of the business, they move executives around a lot too. So via broadcast dialogue, Anthem has announced an internal shuffle as it officially takes ownership of Hollywood Suites movie channels. Originally announced last September, the CRTC approved the near $50 million transaction controlled by Asper. Hollywood Suites for movie channels joined AEW, Fight Network, and Access. David Kynes, president and co-founder of Hollywood Suite, now takes on the role of president, Anthem Entertainment Canada. The move also sees Carol McDaniel, Anthem's senior VP of operations, step down after 3 years in her role and 16 with Access TV. So really similar to Ariel Scherer, somebody that really is a long-time person that was with Asper is stepping down. Well, I guess Access TV was acquired at some point, but they've been there a while. In an internal memo provided to Broadcast Dialogue, Kynes told staff that with the continuing evolution of Anthem's technical and operational needs, we are taking the opportunity to optimize the organization and management of our operations and technology departments. Quincy Ravy, VP of Operations, will expand her role to encompass Anthem's master control and production operations. In addition, she'll continue to oversee tax credit planning, of which TNA doesn't benefit, from what I understand, and administration for Hollywood Suites in-house operations, accessibility initiatives, and so on. Anthem veteran Tyler Warman, director of MCR operations and post-production, will also expand his role, including day-to-day management of Anthem's master control, as well as continue to oversee the editing teams for on-air programming and production, and this crosses over to the other side, at Fight Network and Game Plus. Ravy will support Warman, who in turn will provide support to MCR manager Jeremy Davis and the team playing out all the broadcast channels from Anthem's Toronto headquarters, as well as the editing teams for on-air programming production at Fight and Game Plus. Additionally, Ravy will oversee digital asset management and so on.
So as far as TNA is concerned, a lot of news there, a lot of possible changes again. But what about WoW? I feel like we haven't talked about WoW in a while. What's the kind of the latest and what's going on with WoW?
Yeah, so a couple weeks ago, they announced their next season, and it was happening just a few days later. So really kind of a continuation of what they were doing, but the positive is that they're renewed for the next season, which is their fourth under Paramount, and they're taking a different approach once they do a new taping. So first, on September 9th, they announced the premiere of all property will return on the weekend of September 13th. Let's see. Making history is the first ever professional wrestling events held on Fremont Street. The Fights on Fremont Street experience will bring the signature WoW Purple Ring to the heart of Vegas for an unforgettable, action-packed spectacle this October. The WoW events kick off on October 14th, with the first of the Fight at Fremont experience episodes launching on October 18th. Okay, season 4 opens with episode. Okay, so they've already opened on this. So this is interesting. From what I understand, John, have you been to Vegas?
No, never been out there.
Okay, so from what I gather here, Fremont Street is sort of like maybe like a Times Square of Vegas, or at least a very busy place where I guess you could close it off or have a certain part where you just put up a ring. So I don't know if they're, once they do the tapings by mid-October, if their whole season is going to be like them wrestling and just people randomly walking by on their way to the casino, or there'll be seats set up there, whatever. But I'm going to read some more from the press release, or actually via Nevada Business. WoW is bringing high-impact action back to downtown Vegas with 4 nights of free professional wrestling events at Fremont Street. Fans can catch the superheroes Purple Ring Live October 14, 15, 21, and 22nd, starting at 6 p.m. Now, 4 days of tapings, John, last year, that carried them through the full year. So this might be like the third year. As the premier all-female sports, WoW is known for intense rivalries, blah, blah, blah. More than 40 WoW superheroes, including 6 new competitors, will participate. Season 4 premiere October 13th, with Fremont experience as the backdrop. Each night promises dramatic flashes, athletic feats, and unforgettable moments. The takeover also coincides with WoW's 4th season. Viewers in Vegas can catch WoW every Saturday at 2 p.m. on KSNV and KVCW.
Nice. How about GCW? How about Game Changer Wrestling?
So in terms of the positive recent news, they sold out LA. Really a strong base for them. There was something that went viral where it had their logo on it, and there was a producer involved, where Vanguardia in Hidalgo, Mexico, at the same time as they had their LA show. A producer went through glass or something. I guess that'll air in some form to some controversy later. But what's coming up next? So actually, they're not too far away from Anchorage, Alaska, and from when I last looked, it looked like they were just had sold the first row, and there are plenty of seats left in the second row and beyond. Maybe they sold the second row now, but that's a pretty far trip to fly everyone or get them there just to say that you were in another state. It just seems like, part of my language, the type of event where you can really lose your ass on. Obviously, they're Brett and the team, they're watching the numbers very closely, and they're accountable for it, so they're not going to just do anything just to do it. But I mean, it feels like it. Then back to Atlantic City for a double shot in October. Rochester, a Shotzi Blackheart branded event. Hartford on November 7th. Then they're in not only Barrie, Vermont, but now Maine as well. So running the New England circuit, although they haven't been to Massachusetts yet. Then they return to the mall show around Thanksgiving weekend, and then all the way to Seattle, which they'll probably fill in some shows between now and then. So as we chatted about off air, John, the collective, maybe they'll be in Saudi Arabia. I think that if there's a reasonable offer, they probably will. You're not in the position to stand on moral high ground or whatever it may be if they would have an issue with that. Obviously, some talent that may present as members of the LGBTQIA plus community may not be comfortable going and can sort of make their decision with that. But I don't think it would be impossible that they would be there. I think they just have to be careful, in terms of navigating something like that. Now,
it is pretty crazy that they might do Saudi. I mean, it just kind of nutty almost. But that would be good if they can get people to go over there and do it for the collective, because the collective is so part of making those independent guys money. I mean, that's probably their biggest money makers when they do the WrestleMania weekend, the collective. So that would be amazing. But getting them over there is probably so damn expensive. And then how the hell can you make your money back? So it's like a risky proposition.
Yeah, I think in this situation, just because it would be so complex that you would basically have to have bought shows to know that, okay,
100%.
Yep. Our profit margin and so on, and maybe they can bring merchandise and sell it, depending on how much you carry officially, or everyone loading up their gear bag with merchandise. Now, John, I don't know, should we talk about Masha Slamovich? Should we not? What are you thinking?
Let's talk about her at the end. Let's talk about some lucha stuff first, but because that's kind of I don't know, I feel like that's something that we can not skip over. We'll focus on that.
Okay.
So let's talk a little lucha.
Yeah, so it was a little bit confusing, like when this would air, and then suddenly, as I shared on X, that it was going to be on 8:45 p.m. Eastern time, and then it actually aired at 9 o'clock. So it was the CMLL branded Pokemon show. So I turned it on with my son, who's a big Pokemon fan, which we've talked about, and he was intrigued. He liked that the ring looked like a battle arena, and everyone was wearing not necessarily costumes, but giveaway masks and that sort of stuff. And I'm not sure we watched enough to notice all the talent that was cosplaying or whatever it may be, but I did rewind it this morning to find who was How Lucha, and I was actually surprised because maybe I just didn't understand what the plan was. I thought that there would actually be, as we talked about extensively last a few weeks ago, a How Lucha new character, but I guess it was the next best thing because it was Mystico. Was wearing the How Lucha colors, but not exactly dressed like him. He was dressed like him himself, but it seemed to go over really well. as of 12 hours later, when I captured the shot, both the CMLL and the Pokemon Latin American YouTube channel both had 100,000 views. It's being shared. At least once I liked something on X, it's being shared all over X. My feed is full of it. So seems like a very successful event there. And just thinking out loud, like with AEW having a relationship with CMLL, like maybe if they did something with Pokemon related, like as a special, because sometimes they do like movie centric specials or like Shark Week specials. I could see that going over really well with the AEW fans. I could see like a crossover, to adult fans or to Pokemon for AEW than WWE. Whatever that means, I'm not casting casting any aspersions or whatever it may be, but I could just see that like going over really well. But CMLL did broadcast their show in English, 92nd anniversary show on Triller. I made a joke that hopefully they get the payout based on the rumors there, but it's sort of hard to build momentum if that's what they want to go for. If only some things are in English and you have to sort of like wait for it and so on. But Mystico against MJF, I didn't hear much after it took. I guess it took place already.
Mystico won.
Mystico won.
Yep.
Okay, so didn't hear much about it afterwards, but I think if they want to have the efforts, having an English option would be helpful. My son was like, "Oh, okay, can we watch that?" Like after 20 minutes, he's like, "Can we watch something in English?" Because he doesn't know any Spanish, and it was kind of just things he could understand besides visually after a while. So obviously that's important.
It's a sellout for Arena Mexico, by the way, over 16,000 in attendance. I mean, CMLL is killing it right now, so it was kind of expected, but they did great.
Yeah, and I did check. Like I was actually watching that, and it was, I don't know if it was immediate sellout, but when I checked, it was like it was sold out, like within hours, I think, if not a day. So Walker Stewart was praising CMLL for obviously having English commentary. I mean, he was genuine about it, but a smart thing to do because you want to have more international promotions looking for announcers. I don't know who did it though in English. Now, something unrelated to the big companies. There's now, we've always talked about fast channels a lot that don't seem to last, but now there is a fast channel for Lucha Plus, which is widely distributed. Roku, Fubo, Plex, and Zumo, and so on, distributed by Arenas Group. So we'll see if that lasts. I don't know where they're getting the content from. An interesting article from El País, hopefully I'm not messing that up, the pronunciation, by Veronica M. Guarino. The gentrification of Mexican wrestling. Lucha Libre emerged in the poor neighborhoods of Mexico and has attracted both tourists and the wealthy. So let's see, I'll read some of it. It's Tuesday at Arena Mexico. In the front rows are filled with tourists. Phones are raised to film the fighters with commentary in English, French, and Japanese. In the stands, there's tournament insults and cheers, typical of local long-term fans. The scene reflects a recent change. Once the poor man's sport in Mexico City, Lucha Libre has become a tourist and cultural attraction with a global reach. The more diverse audiences has boosted profits and transformed the way people fight, as well as hiking prices and shutting out regular fans. Wrestling, along with neighborhoods themselves, is being gentrified, and the fight against it is on. Rodolfo Hernandez runs a taco stall located in front of the wrestling venue in the Doctores neighborhood. It's madness. Before it was ordinary people, but now it's foreigners, celebrities, and important people who ride with bodyguards. Outside his business stands a double-decker bus in which the foreigners to whom Hernandez refers arrive. Europeans, Asian people, and North Americans get off wearing Lucha Libre masks. Between photos, the guide introduces them to the art of shouting and whistling and asks them to make a choice that would not be taken lightly. Good guys or bad guys? 7 years ago, CMLL managed to have its sports declared an intangible cultural heritage of Mexico City, which turned into a tourist attraction. Ernesto Campo, editor-in-chief of the specialized portal Super Luchas, explains that Lucha Libre emerged as entertainment for lower-class neighborhoods where there were no cinemas or theaters, but that today it is recognized as a national symbol on a par with mariachi or tequila. Among the crowds outside the arena are Francisco and David from Spain. They recognize that the sport is not exactly their bag, but were told it was on mismo. It's very different from anywhere else in the world, David says. But there's a flip side. Ulises Torres, a specialist in social studies at the National Autonomous University of Mexico, states that lucha libre is going through a process of cultural gentrification. This implies where the fights take place. This implies the appropriation of designs and masks and transformation of the space where the fights take place. Jose Angel Garfias, a research professor specializing in entertainment, agrees. Ticket prices have risen up by 50%. Premium services are multiplying, and interaction with the public, which was an essential part of the environment, is being lost. Both Torres and Garfias believe that gentrification has shut out the original fans. Torres draws a parallel with other sports such as boxing, which left neighborhood gyms to become an industry based in Vegas, or baseball, which is increasingly exclusive to the cost of tickets, and soccer shown in many paid platforms. So I think we get the point, but an interesting look at Mexican wrestling, and I actually learned a couple of things that I didn't know before.
Gotta love that. What does MLW have to do with any of this? What are you going to tie in here?
Yeah, so originally it was going to be MLW, and then I found some CMLL lucha tie-ins, and then it became more about lucha. But I didn't feel like breaking out MLW to its own category. But most noticeably, right, Blue Panther is now their national openweight champion, along with Templario, their world middleweight champion, as they continue to try and find their footing. What are they? And I think part of what they are, obviously, they focus on fusion and so on, but I think they're more lucha than anything else, which probably isn't a bad place to be. Mads Kruger is now their champion, which I think they made an action figure of him, so at least they have one that's active on the roster. Donovan Dijak, world tag champion with Bishop Dyer. And I'm not familiar with Shoko Nakajima, who is their women's world featherweight champion. But what do they have coming up? Basically, their typical schedule once a month, October 4th in LA, which is looking quite good for ticket sales. Charleston, the special show, which we talked about with Don Gato Tequila, has about 275 tickets distributed. A little bit early to look at Dallas in January, and Chicago, which was a show moved from November to accommodate this South Carolina show.
Do you love that they have the legends of Lucha Libre, like Blue Panther, Templario, like they're using legends basically and giving them titles? Do you like that?
I think it's interesting. To me, it makes it more appealing. I'm not sure what audience that they're going for exactly, because if you're using the legends, and no disrespect intended whatsoever, but Blue Panther without his mask, he's an older gentleman, right? For a new fan, they don't know, it's hard to know what to make out of it. And even an old lucha fan, it's sort of it doesn't look like, unless you've been following that he lost the mask and all that, it's not as recognizable. So to me, probably MLW's smartest play would just be keep their branding, MLW presents, CMLL, and just run lucha shows and be done with it. Because this fusion here nor there, and WWE controversial figure coming in and out or whatever it may be, it's going to be hard to get anywhere. But WWE isn't running AAA everywhere now. The lucha market for big time lucha in the US isn't oversaturated. CMLL has the most access to talent at the moment. So why not just sort of explore rebranding in that way? That would seem to make the most sense. Otherwise, MLW is kind of chugging along like NWA without much of a direction or specific branding.
What about WWE theme nights? What's going on here? What is this?
This just seems like a smart move. Every once in a while, you would see WWE cross over into an NBA game or NHL game or whatever. Maybe here they're able to formalize things, which I think is important, because for some fans, right, with them not running as many shows, with the shows being super expensive now, and if they don't continue to ramp up the WWE NXT, fans don't have a chance to engage with WWE in person. So this actually might be a different type of opportunity to do so. WWE Coyote Promotions, a sports merchandising agency, announced a multi-year licensing agreement that will see Coyote develop and execute WWE branded promotional nights in partnership with pro sports teams. This strategic partnership grants Coyote Promotions the right to create immersive WWE theme nights for fans of all leagues, including the NBA, NHL, MLB, NFL, MLS, NCAA, as well as minor league. The collaboration will bring the energy, spectacle, and legacy of WWE to stadiums and arenas throughout the U.S. through co-branded promotional giveaways, appearances, and legends, themed merchandise, and unforgettable in-game entertainment. WWE is one of the most iconic and beloved brands in sports global entertainment, said Mark Simone of Coyote. We're excited to deliver the magic of WWE to sports fans in new and memorable ways through innovative promotional nights that tap into the passion of both fan bases. The deal was brokered between Coyote's licensing agency, Collaborations Licensing, and WWE's licensing agency, IMG Licensing.
Now, here's your favorite topic of all time, here and there. What is going on here and what is going on there?
Yeah, so the first, which we didn't get a chance to talk about yet, similar to GCW, right, in Saudi Arabia, High Spots. What's going to happen with High Spots? High Spots owner Michael Baccio, who operates WrestleCon, indicated running in Saudi Arabia is highly unlikely. Conducting the convention overseas would mean heightened costs for staff, and that talent also often seek higher fees for international appearances. It's so complicated because you have the people that they bring in, and then you have vendors who bring in people. So if this were to happen, I think if the Saudi investors or whoever like the WrestleCon brand and want that legitimate experience, it would have to be another sold show where WrestleCon would have to sign up the people, bring their own merchandise. I don't think you would have like individual vendors unless there's some that can travel from the Mideast, which would make it too complicated. So that's that. Big time wrestling. They've been kind of quiet on the big time from on occasion, but big time wrestling is running the Augusta Civic Center, now Augusta, Maine, not Augusta, Georgia. Matt Riddle against PCO. PCO is interesting because if my geography is correct, I should have Googled this, but like I don't think Maine is too far from Canada, relatively speaking. So PCO has his following there, but I think you would have to count on, of course, the fans in Maine primarily. But Matt Riddle against PCO, as big time a match of non-WWE contracted wrestlers or non-contracted wrestlers as it's going to get. Plus, of course, you can't run a show in Maine without Tony Atlas and signing by Kurt Angle. It's a pretty big venue. They're just using part of it at the moment, but there's room to expand. So that's that. Now, the strange story with Prestige. So Prestige had this, which we covered. They had this big show, in the Pacific Northwest, and then they got involved in talking about cancel culture, calling out a promotion that was booking a canceled wrestler, and then they ran their own show, and then there was accusations of threats and violence from one side to another, and then suddenly they're like, we're kind of done. Like, I think it's William who runs Prestige. They're kind of done, and we have 4 final shows. So it just seemed like, don't want to speculate on someone too much. It just seemed like too much stress, too much going on, all coming together at once. So really a staple of bigger scale independent wrestling is going away. What else? Talking about conventions, House of Glory is running with the big event, which was in Queens forever, but now it's in Long Island, or will be in Long Island. So smart thing, the big event always attracts a fair amount of fans to pay, the high prices for Bret Hart and whoever will be there, to get that experience. So House of Glory sort of makes sense in whatever form that's taking place. Now it's Suki Bomb's 2-year anniversary. So it started out with a lot of pomp and circumstance, and there's going to working on anime deals, working on crossover promotions, nail designers, hair designers, fashion people. Every once in a while they have a show, and they announce, okay, we did 2,000 people, and it was great, and this famous person was there, but I don't know if they've gotten anywhere. What do you think about Sukiban, John?
Yeah, really. It's like I don't know. We hear like big things, and then they don't really get anywhere. So I don't know. I don't really know what to make. I'm kind of like confused. It's like, are they kind of like a big time promotion here? Because then I kind of don't hear from them. They kind of go by the wayside for a while. So I'm not really sure what to make of.
Yeah, and it's like whenever you count them out, then they're like, we're in London and we have an article.
Right, and then they're all over the place. We're in New York City. Yeah, it's like crazy, weird.
And check out our article in Cosmo and Vogue, and whatever, which is cool. Like I love it when like wrestling crosses over to like places that it doesn't usually go. But I wonder, how much this is speculating, how much this is costing them, and when it's time to be like, okay, we're either getting somewhere or not, which is a lot of promotions. But staying along the Joshi front, a really well-written article in Time Out, not Time Out New York, Time Out Thailand, Tokyo Joshi Pro Wrestling Body Slams Bangkok. Bangkok's love affair with Japanese pop culture continues, moving from anime and art to the wrestling ring. The latest sensation to land on our shores is Tokyo Joshi Pro, Japan's wildly popular all-women's league, making it a historic Thai debut. After successful standalone shows in LA, Philly, Vegas, Houston, and Dallas, TJPW is set to hit the stage on December 13th at the Circus Studio. Organizing collaboration with Set Up Thailand Pro, the event is titled Live in Bangkok. It will feature around 10 stars alongside women wrestlers from across Southeast Asia. TJPW stands out from other promotions for its fusion of wrestling and culture. Rather than focusing purely on hard-hitting strong style, it thrives on colorful characters, heartfelt storytelling, and a lighthearted atmosphere that blends intensity with humor and emotion. Fans love it, not just for the athleticism, but for the personality and fun that makes every match an experience. So yeah, they're getting out there. I like the way it's described. Now I'm more curious. I haven't followed them much except to see the wrestlers. I think they cross over to GCW, who've all been impressive that have. But smart way to do things. I think they did really well in Dallas. They ran 2 or 3 shows over WrestleMania weekend, and here they're working with an existing promotion. They're just sending 10 wrestlers, so seems like a win-win for all.
Now, as far as some interesting just news, I guess you would say, because it's kind of, I guess it's out there, but it is somewhat allegations. And this is your favorite wrestler, so I'm kind of curious of your take. So, Masha Slamovich and boyfriend Akira, guess there was some domestic violence, I guess, or a domestic dispute. So she put up basically a message saying the beginning of the year she was in a toxic relationship, mutually destructive, and basically she said this is going to be her only statement on the matter, but it was a mutually destructive relationship. I won't read the whole thing, but she's taking responsibility and she's seeking counseling for it.
Yeah, so it's a little bit hard for me to separate, John, because I'm not a big fan of too many modern people. And Masha, like almost every GCW show, for example, most of those she was on. And then when I went to Capitol Wrestling, it just, sort of that nexus of Brooklyn and Manhattan, she was on those shows. So took a picture with her, so not to claim that I know her personality, but that's a little bit of my bias there. But I think first, like whenever you have a situation like this, people shouldn't run to conclusions, and certainly not bully her because, like, abusive language online and so on, like, it could lead to intended or unintended consequences. So I think like it doesn't give you the right to start harassing people. I think it seemed like almost, and I don't know, like almost planned because Akira didn't say anything, and then Akira's friend said something, and then they had a link to I think 1,600 screenshots, which I didn't read. Somebody said, and this is just reading from X. Somebody said you hit him with a frying pan. I don't know, exactly what went on. It just seems like a sad situation. Of course, culturally, it's certainly not right for a woman to abuse a man or whatever, but you kind of like you have to filter that through your mind and not discount it. Obviously, no abuse is acceptable in that regard. So I think it seems like TNA is reviewing this now. They do have people, or have had at least two people on the roster that have credibly, apparently, been accused of domestic violence. I don't know. I don't believe either happened on their watch, meaning while they were contracted wrestlers, but it's not something necessarily that's been used as a red line for them before, and they're kind of a promotion for people who've made mistakes and so on before. So I don't know what their investigation will be, what it'll look like, and even if they find it, if it's like sort of something where they don't want to employ the person anymore. Each promotion sort of, especially if you're an independent promotion, you can only do so much. So some immediately chose just to cancel her booking, which might be the best way to go at the moment till things settle down. An important shoe to drop would be what Brett Lauderdale, our friend, frequent guest of the podcast, does for GCW, because besides being a TNA regular, she's certainly a former champion and regular with GCW. So curious to see if she would be booked. Of course, don't want to forget the victim or the alleged victim. Of course, you have to say, you know, we don't have all the facts here. Akira, because it's difficult for Akira's career as well, because it's been on the same shows all the time, right? Like it's sort of like the buzzworthy promotions are the ones that can afford Masha and Akira. So like, how will they interact? I guess they have been, right, because we didn't know about it. I'm sure they've crossed over to a fair amount of shows recently, but that's something to consider as well. So I guess the best thing to say is like, hopefully all the facts come out. Not necessarily that the public needs to know all the facts, but the facts of the people that make decisions come out. The public would need to know enough to decide with their dollars, you know, and support and viewership, whether a promotion has Masha, if they're willing to support that, and what's the line there, then that helps promoters to decide. But I think we have to be careful of cancel culture. And again, my line is, and I have nothing specifically against the person, but I do have obviously a lot against their actions. If you're a fan of Steve Austin, and you know there's pretty well documented allegations, at least against domestic partners and years of domestic abuse allegations, then who are you to want to cancel other people if you have no problem with Steve Austin being in WrestleMania in the face of WWE? I have no problem if you want to cancel everyone, but you know, just look at that as, that's kind of like what I look at as the barometer.
My only thing is, obviously it's a little bit different when it's the man on the woman and the woman on the man. It kind of reverses things and it makes it obviously a bit different situation. Although I would kind of treat it the same if you're, you know, that company and employee, or if you're the police in that matter, you kind of have to keep it treated the same. But it is just something different. But I just had a problem with that. He didn't say anything. She didn't say anything. It's like a third party kind of put it out there. So not really fair to, I feel like, him or her.
Yeah, and just to speculate, just unless it was like his closest friend or something that he's been sharing these like screenshots for a while, I would assume it would have to be in coordination with him, but I just don't know.
Could be. Yeah, it could be. You never know.
And he didn't like disavow it to be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that was shared, you know, the
Right.
Masha, you know, that sort of thing. So that's just my speculation. Obviously, hopefully, if we need to know a lot more facts will come out. But right, like it's true. And again, I'm not saying definitely not justified or whatever it may be, but like just from a sociological perspective, I don't know what generation we are, John, but people in our 40s, you know, it is a different way of looking at it. Like, you know, woman to man, man to woman. No one should have to go through this, but just, you know, in terms of that filter, obviously that's something that has to be acknowledged, but it should be obviously treated in a fair way for everyone.
And that's going to be her only time she said that she'll be talking about this subject. So she's trying to move on, and I guess TNA is looking into it, but she won't be talking about it publicly anymore.
I guess unless she needs to, right? Like it depends how these things go, right? Because there's people who have had these situations, and they continue to earn even full-time living in their career, and there's other people that they're never getting booked in like a half decent promotion again outside of the 2300 arena. um, and making a living. It's not a joke, but I just had to throw in the 2300 arena, and who are basically canceled for life. So we had like, if she needs to do a better PR campaign to save her career, she might need to speak again.
All right. Very, very good stuff there. Lavie covered a lot of ground. Let's hit the plugs and wrap it up. You follow me on Twitter and Instagram at 2Man Power Trip. How about you?
Follow me on X, Lavie Marg, LAVIE MARG. Check out my long form articles on LionCubJobSearch.com. And since it's in the news, will there be a Department of Education anymore and all that good stuff? Trump mania, Vince McMahon, WWE, and the making of America's 45th president. Print book, ebook, audiobook.
Nice. All right. Thank you, Lavie. Thank you, everybody out there, for listening. See you right back here next week for a little business of the business. See you next week, folks.